Being now 7 o'clock, a regular meeting of the Zoning Board of Appeals of the Town of Orleans is called to order. There are those who have mobile communications devices should either silence them or put them on stun, as I will now. There are 2 items on the agenda this evening.
Military term when you put your cell phone on stun? We haven't opened the public comment yet. Burnett, 1972.
Sort of like taser only.
The first of which is case number 1972, the application of Mark and Elizabeth Burnett. Are all those present for that hearing? Very well. In case 1972, Mark and Elizabeth Burnett have applied for special permit as set forth in General Laws, Chapter 48, Section 9, under Orleans zoning bylaw sections 164-21A, Note 5, to renovate a dwelling where building coverage exceeds 4,000 square feet. The property is located at 24 The Lane, Orleans map number 50, parcel 116. Present for the hearing are myself, Michael P. Mark, the chair of the zoning board. And also with me are Beth McCartney, regular member, Matthew Cole, regular member, and William McCarthy, regular member. Also present is the board secretary, Sandy Stewart, and the building commissioner of the town, Brian Harrison. Are any members of the board have had any communication or otherwise disqualified from for any reason imposed by law by reason of conflict of interest? No positive response. I declare that the members of the board are indifferent and therefore qualified to hear the application. All those who intend to testify in this hearing attest or aver that the evidence they're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Little, may you represent you're speaking for the Burnetts?
Yes, I am.
And would you proceed?
Thank you. David Little representing the Burnetts. I don't know if the board remembers, but Bill Von Faden came in on an impromptu visit with, he was a little upset a couple of months ago. He was all ready to start a project, and he came to the building department. But let me preface all this by saying I've just been brought into this at the 11th hour. I wasn't the engineer of record, but I'm helping the Burnetts out at this point in time. When he filed for his building permit, the building department determined that the coverage on the proposed renovation went up by approximately 190 square feet. And the dwelling presently exceeds 4,000 square feet. So we are here because of the trigger in the zoning bylaw that requires a special permit if you exceed 4,000 square feet. Fortunately for my clients, the coverage is less than 15%, so it is a special permit. They're going from 11.7% to 12.2%. So that being said, if I could draw your attention to the last page of the package that the architect put together, there is a site plan, and the shaded portion of the site plan is where the expansion is occurring. Some of it is already occurring under roofed area, some of it is new. The net of this is that, if I can show you on page 2, is that this area, this interior area in here, is expanding by approximately, or according to the registered architect that prepared the plans, by exactly 190 square feet over what presently exists on the site. It is within that area. I don't know exactly how to explain the numbers to you, but the numbers in the special permit application were provided to be by Putker Architects as the increase in coverage. So, interestingly enough, and fortunately for my client, everything else on the property conforms with all zoning rules and regulations. The exterior of the house remains the same. There are no increase in setbacks to coastal banks, side yards, road, rear yard. It is merely in the middle of the existing structure that is under renovation right now that this increase occurs. So we are going from 4,156 square feet, or 11.7% of the existing building coverage based on the buildable upland, to 4,346 square feet, or 12.2% of the buildable upland on the property, an increase in 190 square feet. As I noted in the special permit criteria, the 1.16 acre site is adequate for the proposed change, resulting in a building coverage of 4,346 square feet of 12.2%. The site is suitable for the change. The new dwelling complies with all dimensional requirements of the zoning bylaw. The change really can only be seen if you actually come in and drive into the driveway and look at the front of the house. So there will be no negative impact on traffic flow or safety. There will be no negative impact on neighborhood visual character. The dwelling is served by an existing Title V septic system and town water. The site plan prepared by Coastal Engineering assures that all stormwater runoff is contained on the site. The property has the benefit and use of all public utilities. There would be no noise or litter other than the temporary noise associated with construction, and a dumpster will remain on site during demolition and construction. And the Orleans Conservation Commission did issue an order of conditions for the portion of the project within their jurisdiction, assuring the protection of groundwater quality, recharge volume, water quality of coastal and freshwater bodies. So, for those of you that visited the site, while renovation work is going on, we aren't trying to be presumptuous. It's just that the Burnett's and their builder were caught with what they thought was ready to go, and they are moving forward with other portions of the renovation at this time. So I would hope that you would find that the increase in coverage of 190 square feet for this house, which is only visible if you were to come into the driveway and look at the front of the house, is in keeping with the intent and the purpose of the bylaw. That would be my presentation. I'll answer any questions. Thank you.
Well, Mr. Little, the mystery then is since the footprint hasn't changed, where does the extra 190 square feet come from? I think it's the new flat roof.
Partially.
Over part of the planter and over part of the new deck. That's where it is.
I believe that's true, but I don't know that for a fact. All I can say is the architect has told me the increase in roofed coverage is 190 square feet.
Yeah, that probably was that's what I conclude from looking at that. I just thought maybe you had figured it out too.
I had not.
Do you have any questions?
What happened to the roof overhang?
What about,
Well, they had measured roof overhang
well, no,
before.
what and this is consistent with what I have learned with working with the building department, and I explained to Bill Von Thaden that it's been the policy that if an eave or cornice is consistent around the structure, it's not considered an increase in coverage.
Okay.
So the interesting part about this house was it had large eaves that they were reducing and making smaller, And Bill thought that he could make it all go away, but Brian actually had a policy decision that he provided with me that I forwarded to the Burnett's and to Bill Von Thaden and advised them that we did, in fact, have an increase in coverage, so we had to get a special permit.
I'm fine.
Had trouble finding the coverage information on the site plan. Is the coverage information noted?
The coverage information is only noted in the special permit, and I got that from the architect from Hutker.
So are you able to walk us through that calculation? Where that sum total comes from, the different parts and pieces?
It is in,
I know that's where the increase comes from, but where does the total come from?
from the architect. He gave me the plans are so, to be very honest with you, the plans are so confusing. I didn't prepare the site plan. An engineer from Coastal did, and the architect has stamped the plans that have been submitted to the building department, and I'm relying on his numbers.
So you're representing that the boathouse coverage is included in that total?
Absolutely. Yes, it is. I know that for a fact.
Okay. Do you know how, there's no plumbing in the boathouse, I assume?
No. There is electricity.
Mr. McCarthy, do you have any inquiry?
I guess our question where I see a notation of proposed covered entry and deck, patio to be replaced with deck, is that included then in?
No, deck is not included in coverage calculations. It's only, it has to be covered by a roof.
Okay. I have no other questions.
I'm thinking somewhere in that coverage table on sheet C2-1 C2 point 1.1, somewhere in that coverage table, I think you can extrapolate the numbers that were contained in the application. Close enough anyway. I don't have any further questions. Is there anyone present wishing to speak in favor, in opposition, to speak at all in connection with this application? Hearing no response, and I'll close the hearing for evidence and request the sense of the board. I find that I think that the application is relatively benign, causes no violence to the zoning bylaw, and is an appropriate subject for a special permit.
Can you remind me, does this trigger footnote 5?
No, we don't get into it this time.
Good.
Oh. Hearing no comment, then, I propose that following public deliberation by the Zoning Board of Appeals, a quorum of qualified members being present and voting, based on the application of Mark Burnett and Elizabeth Burnett filed October 10, 2013, based also upon the site plan prepared by Coastal Engineering showing proposed renovations and site modifications dated May 31, 2013, based also on the drawings entitled Building Permit Set, sheets A000, A100, A101, A102, A103, A201, A202, A203, A301, A302, all prepared by Hutker Architects, dated August 5, 2013, based also upon the order of conditions of the Orleans Conservation Commission, dated July 10, 2013. I move that the board adopt the following findings of fact. 1, the subject property known as 24 The Lane is shown as parcel 116 on Orleans map 50 and is in a R district. 2, the present use of the property is a single-family residence. 3, the proposed use of the property is a single-family residence with renovations and site modifications. 4, the proposed use will not be detrimental to the established and future character of the neighborhood and will be in harmony with the general intent and purpose of the zoning bylaw. 5, the alteration and reconstruction will not be substantially more detrimental to the neighborhood than the existing structure. 6, the site is adequate in terms of size and suitable for the proposed use. The resulting building coverage of 4,346 square feet comprises 12.2% of the buildable upland within the 15% allowed by the zoning bylaw. The renovated dwelling complies with all dimensional requirements on the site, which consists of 1.16 acres. 7, the proposed use will have no negative impact on traffic flow or safety. 8, the proposed use will have no negative impact on the visual character of the neighborhood. 9, the proposed use is isolated from and will have no impact on the method of sewage disposal, source of water, drainage, or water resources. The dwelling is presently served and will continue to be served by a relatively new Title V septic system and with town water. 10, utilities and public services will be adequate for the proposed use or change in use. 11, noise and litter will not be increased after the construction of the proposed use. 12, there will be no adverse impact on groundwater quality and recharge volume, and the water quality of coastal and fresh surface water bodies. An order of conditions has been issued by the Orleans Conservation Commission. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Any discussion on the motion? All those in favor? Aye. Based on the findings of fact, I move that the board grant a special permit pursuant to sections 164-21A Note 5, 164-43, and 164-44 of the zoning bylaw to run with the land. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Any discussion on the motion to grant a special permit?
No.
All those in favor?
Aye.
And opposed? None. The motion carries unanimously 4-0-0.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Hey, David, do you like extra copies?
Yeah, that'd be great, thank you.
That's good. This is, we'll call the case number 1973 for hearing. This is the application of Paul and Anne Marie Hickey for a special permit as set forth in General Laws, Chapter 48, Section 9, under Orleans zoning bylaw, Section 164-21A, Note 5, to revise plans previously approved to raise and reconstruct a dwelling resulting in more than 4,000 square feet of building coverage. This property is located at 18 Overlook Circle, Orleans, map number 29, parcel 40-0-R, present and to consider and participate in this hearing are myself, Chair of the Zoning Board, Beth McCartney, Matthew Cole, William McCarthy, all regular members. Also present is the Board Secretary and the Building Commissioner of the Town of Orleans, Brian Harrison. Are any members of the board have had any communication with the applicant which would cause a conflict of interest or ought to be disclosed under the terms of the law? no positive response. Therefore, I declare that the board is indifferent and therefore qualified to consider this hearing. You were here before, and now can you describe the change which brings you back?
Yes, to the easterly side of the building, there was a master bedroom wing that was 2 stories, and that came off the main building at a 45-degree angle. We've since revised that to straighten it out so it runs at a 90-degree angle, or is consistent with the other parallel lines of the building. And to simplify construction, to be quite honest, once we started getting into engineering, et cetera, it kind of went awry. So we've decided to straighten it out, make it a little simpler for construction, and reduce the cost somewhat of the overall construction to make this work.
So the footprint has changed slightly,
Correct.
and I understand by a copy of an email that the Grandview Association Building Committee has been consulted concerning the modification of the previously approved plans.
Correct.
And I have in the response from John Stevens, who appears to have been a member, one member of 3 members, at least, of that building committee, and that, to use a colloquial expression, that the applicant would be good to go, and this, a copy of the email would be an okay from the building committee. So apparently your change has been vetted and approved by the Grandview Association Building Committee.
Yes,
something
that's
which was
correct.
of concern to the board once before.
Yes.
Very well. Do you have any other remarks, Mr. Spiegel?
Not really more than what you already know. I mean, we changed it, obviously, for economic reasons and structural ease of construction. So we think that the overall design hasn't really deviated from the previous decision, and that it still is in keeping with all of the rules outlined and for the special permit, and so we would hope that we can move forward with this design. It has the same roof lines. Like as I said, not really much has changed from the design other than straightening the wing out.
Did the square footage change at all?
And no.
Well, it did by nature of straightening it. The geometry changes, right?
The geometry changed, but I reduced other areas like that, you know, the 45-degree angle where the tower was and all that, I reduced the size of that to stay within the square footage that we had discussed previously. Otherwise, it would have, yes, you're right, it did grow, but I've reduced it in a couple of different spots to maintain that.
Do you have a copy of the plan that was approved?
I do here.
Yeah, could you show us I've got the proposed configuration, but I'd like to see the
Okay.
approved configuration.
Came up here, this area here is where I had to reduce all these walls in here, and we turned this into a straight.
Would it show on, sort of in a outline form on the site plan?
It does not show on that site plan.
Okay. So that's page, first floor plan.
So the bathroom gets larger, closet different shape, hall looks like larger,
All of it,
different shape.
everything got larger. See, this went to 9'2", was 8 feet before. I had to pull this in, so this came forward, yes, to make this appear larger, but it actually shrunk in terms of the coverage that way, because then it ended up that.
Okay, thank you.
So even with the change in the footprint, there's no effect with the dimensional requirements on the ground and the sidelines. Does the board have any further questions of Mr. Spiegel?
Thank you.
Is there a question on the interplay of the previous decision? It was a case of, we're not reflecting on what that, how they, are we amending? Is it
The thinking was that in view of the history of the previous application, which there were at least 2 hearings where the board was concerned with a set of plans, a final set of plans coming to the board, those plans having been vetted or approved by the Grandview Building Association, that when this change was brought to the attention of the building commissioner, that it would be more appropriate for a new application. So we have a new number here, Mr. McCarthy.
Okay.
How that came to happen, I don't know. But we may consider it as an extension, or we may consider it as a brand-new application under the same terms and conditions, but based on also the plans which Mr. Spiegel just exhibited, or filed with this application and just discussed with the board.
Do you know if it-
For ease, we've compared, we're only considering, we've considered everything else before, that hasn't changed. The footprint's changed, and we know that the building coverage, the area of the building coverage isn't changing. Mr. Spiegel has taken pains to keep it within the previous total building area that was approved once before. And has taken also into consideration and honored the whatever requirements there are by restrictive covenants that the Grandview Building Association approve or look at the plans. That was the thinking.
Sure. Can I ask you, Mr. Spiegel, that given that letter from Ms. Stewart about, pardon me, recording of that decision, did it ever get recorded?
It was recorded,
It was.
yes, I do have that paperwork if you'd like to see.
No, just since, so I guess,
So I assume I'll have to record it again, but
Well, no, you won't record that again. If the board sees fit to give you the special permit, to grant the application, then you get a brand new one,
Yeah.
subject to that 20-day period, and then it will be different.
yes, and I'll have to record
Because
that.
it would be generally wired into the most recent, whatever plans we've considered today.
Yes,
And and you've been meticulous and careful to give us plans dated October 1st, 2013.
correct.
With the exception of the first floor plan, which remained dated September 23rd. But that's what you filed.
is that perhaps why it doesn't show up then on the site plan?
No, because he changed the site plan. He he didn't overlay the new structure over the old.
I can see where that makes that more linear, rectilinear, whatever the term is,
Yeah.
than what was before, so. Okay.
You may be a bit modest about the reasons for doing this. It seems to me that the architectural detail is improved by the restructuring as well.
Thank you. I think it's a nicer,
This is dated May 9th. Is there a revision date on this?
To the left, is it?
Well, I think that part of it we weren't concerned about.
This is a site plan that shows it straightened out.
I have a
Under this, under
I
the
have a
stamp.
revision over here.
Oh, okay, sorry. Okay.
Is there anyone present wishing to, besides Mr. Spiegel, wishing to speak in favor of the application? Is there anyone present wishing to speak in opposition to the application? Or to speak in general concerning the application? Hearing no response, I will declare the hearing closed for the taking of evidence and ask the pleasure of the board.
I'm inclined to support.
I see that the change is benign and it does not violate the zoning bylaw and this probably affects an improvement to the neighborhood for the minor change that it is, and would most likely has also been past the scrutiny of the Grandview Building Committee, and would likely have been approved at the earlier hearing if it had been in that form. Therefore, following public deliberation by the Zoning Board of Appeals, a quorum of qualified members being present and voting, based on the application of Paul Hickey and Anne Marie Hickey filed October 11, 2013, based also on the topographic site plan prepared by Schofield Brothers of Cape Cod dated May 9, 2013, revised October 1, 2013, based also on several plans entitled Hickey Residence dated October 1, 2013, except the first floor plan, which is dated September 23, 2013, based also on an email from the Grandview Association Building Committee approving of the change in configuration of the master bedroom to a 90-degree angle from the main structure rather than a 45-degree angle, which was shown on the plans previously approved by the Zoning Board of Appeals. I move that the board adopt the following findings of fact. 1. The subject property known as 18 Overlook Circle is shown as parcel 40-0-R on Orleans map 29 and is in an R district. 2. The present use of the property is a single-family residence. 3. The proposed use of the property is a newly constructed single-family residence on a slightly reconfigured foundation footprint. Four, the proposed use will not be detrimental to the established and future character of the neighborhood and will be in harmony with the general intent and purpose of the zoning bylaw. 5, the reconstruction will not be substantially more detrimental to the neighborhood than the existing non-conforming structure. 6, the site is adequate in terms of size and suitable for the proposed use. The site consists of 60,380 square feet of buildable upland, of which the proposed 4,634 square foot building will occupy 7.6%. 7. The proposed use will have no negative impact on traffic flow or safety. The site is at the end of a cul-de-sac. 8, the proposed use will have no negative impact on the visual character of the neighborhood. 9, the proposed use is isolated from and will have no impact on the method of sewage disposal, source of water, drainage, or water resources. 10, utilities and public services will be adequate for the proposed use or change in use. 11, noise and litter will not be increased after construction of the proposed use. 12, there will be no adverse impact on groundwater quality and recharge volume and the water quality of coastal and fresh surface water bodies. The motion is concluded. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion on the motion? There being no discussion, all those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? None. The motion carries unanimously, 4-0-0. Based on the findings of fact, I move that the board grant a special permit pursuant to sections 164-21A, note 5, and 164-44 of the zoning bylaw to run with the land to raise and reconstruct a dwelling resulting in more than 4,000 square foot of building coverage at 18 Overlook Circle in accordance with plans submitted with this application and cited above. I hear a second.
Second.
Any discussion on the motion? All those in favor? And opposed? The motion to grant a special permit carries unanimously, 4-0-0. Thank you, Mr. Spiegel.
Thank you. Thank you again.
Same time next month?
Yeah, oh, please, not again. Too much paper.
I can imagine, yeah. I like to let you reuse, you know.
Could I ask,
Sure.
Mr. Woznicki, do you know how that your lot is based on the shape as well as probably the size? Seems like it's bigger than what else is in that subdivision,
We
and
do have one of the larger lots in
it
there.
wraps around
Yeah,
one of your
it's,
butters?
and they did some deals, the first owners, trading off land, so it is kind of an odd shaped lot.
Way to configure.
Well, the other question, live anywhere near Pagan Lane in Dover?
Yeah,
I, many moons ago, had occasion to rent the carriage house on the estate that rather famously later was owned by Bill Rogers until the Bank of Boston
I have a
decided.
very good friend who bought an antique farmhouse on Pagan Lane, so
Ah.
my son went to high school with her son.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, so it was
All
a
the time, picking
beautiful-
up.
beautiful area.
It
and,
is a beautiful street,
yeah, so, thank you.
thank you.
Thank you again.
Sure.
Have a good night.
Take care. Bye-bye.
It would be in order to consider and approve the minutes of the October 16th, 2013 meeting. Do I hear a motion to approve those minutes?
I didn't see an amended copy circulated. I had a couple comments.
No.
Right.
The amended copy was not circulated. What were your comments?
One case noted a special permit when we issued a variance, and one noted that I voted on something that I didn't vote on.
Oh, did, I made some changes too. Was that?
We voted for him, no.
Yeah, right. Two hands, why not, right?
That was was that the previous, where Rolf was voting when he wasn't here?
Shall we continue that?
Yes, let's continue that. I did attend on October 23rd, the zoning bylaw task force, which continues to meet periodically. There was a discussions concerning the FEMA floodplain amendments, some concern about apartment use in the Village Center District. Also, the more definitive, the question arose whether the sign portion of the zoning bylaw ought to be tweaked, amended, or refined based on what I frankly didn't hear of anyone complaining of any abuses, but mainly we're concerned with open house and yard sale signs, how soon they should be taken down, how large they should be, and whether they were on a public way. There was a very interesting discussion. None of this really affects us now, but I was astonished to understand that the town, as all towns, need to deal with the medical marijuana facilities. Under the proposal, the permitting would be done exclusively by the Zoning Board of Appeals. I emphasized that was
Make some new friends.
that was a brand new kind of business for us, and we needed to have fairly definitive standards. This, in other words, we understand our role with the zoning bylaw in making findings and granting variances or special permits or reviewing the decisions of the building inspector, how we take evidence. But this is an entirely different feature, so nothing's in effect. I think that will have to cycle its way through the town meeting somewhere along the line. But to make a long story short, it didn't seem to be much discussion. And then I don't know how we end up, the zoning board of appeals
I
ends
was
up
gonna say, I thought the
being.
selectmen would have.
No, they did not this, and it's not for me to say, or I suspect that the selectmen have determined that they may not be an appropriate permit granting authority. It seems to me that there isn't much difference between this and other public safety issues, such as a liquor license, where the Board of Selectmen is certainly equipped
Yeah.
to handle that. The zoning board, this would be a brand-new field.
Is the thinking that it would be-
If we're charged with that, then we can do it, except that we need to be given good instructions as to what the town expects and what standards we need to find in order to grant such a permit. The general thinking would be that the locations would be probably in the industrial district, which is fairly well confined off of Finley Road,
And
somewhere,
Bay Ridge.
somewhere in there. There's some discussion that everyone has a different thought. I mean, well, no,
Right back by the AA club, huh?
we'll make,
Great place for it.
maybe so, but the police chief would rather have it in a more, I understood, in a more visible area so that he can keep an eye on it.
Right.
So,
Possibly the middle school.
so I
probably.
just, this is,
Their greenhouse.
there's no action required by us now, but that's what I'm hearing, and I'll keep you posted.
Is there any interest in amending the use table to specifically identify those facilities and where they would be acceptable, or?
The mechanism really of actually doing that would probably be the sensible way of approaching it, and probably the way it will be done. We never got that far into the nitty-gritty of how it would be done, but the general thinking was that there were certain areas that were appropriate, certain areas that weren't, and none of that would be within our decision. We would be acting on
Right.
and the way that works, very briefly, is an applicant would have, it'd be like a 40B. The 40B applicants come in. No, the 40B
Before we
applicant.
can do anything.
A
we want.
one-stop,
Well, no.
from the standpoint of one-stop.
Exactly. The 40B applicant has been fully vetted by a state agency. So they come in, they probably get the money in place, and so it is with the medical marijuana applicants. They've gone through these significant reviews by the state, so that by the time they get
Okay.
here, we're mainly concerned with the location and whether the location is appropriate. The applicant itself was probably, we wouldn't be passing on the adequacy of the applicant, whether we like the applicant or not. The question, at that point, they would have been qualified somehow or other, so that's the way that would work. But what a surprise, I didn't expect to be,
So would you foresee then a zoning map amendment to designate?
that maybe not. Oh, well, yeah, there would be. You'd have to, I think you'd need an amendment of the zoning
Drug
bylaw
zone.
to define a medical marijuana facility. At least those words would have to be defined, probably by reference to the
Matt was
general
thinking,
laws,
yeah.
and then determine that that facility would be permitted by special permit in one of the zoning district, one or more of the zoning districts. And that would be probably the easiest way of doing it. Either that or, make it more refined, depending on, you have to figure out, the town would have to figure out what is an appropriate area for that, what the town wants. And then we would determine whether otherwise the facility, the building, conform with zoning. You still have the problem of size. Some of the structures can be fairly large. That's what I heard anyway. I don't know anything about the,
Are there
the
any
ag-
in
the
existence in town or around, I mean, on the Cape?
Not yet, not
Okay.
yet. I think I heard that one of the towns had, and it makes a difference too. If we'll say Dennis had a facility, then the type of operation that you would have within 15 miles would be different than otherwise would be permitted if there was none other within 40 miles, we'll say. It's gotta be convenient, I guess, for folks who need
Yeah,
it,
yeah.
who have the prescriptions or whatever.
Oh, that's it,
So-
it's,
So that's a brand new twist, and I thought I ought to make just kind of an oral report so that you could see what was going on.
And of course, a critical question would be whether our findings will require us to test the material. I winked, I gave
We'll
Brian,
leave that to our zoning enforcement agent.
I winked at Brian before I said that, but
I think we just have to come up
it
with a
might
new
make the
drug
meetings a little
zone.
more animated.
So, if there's no further business, or no new business, then I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
I move we adjourn.
And all those in favor?
Aye, aye.
And the motion carries unanimously.